The Knights Templar International, KTI, is a shadowy, controversial group that claims lineage from the original medieval Knights Templar, a Catholic military order established during the Crusades. While the historical Templars were disbanded in the early 14th century by papal decree, many fringe groups and secret societies have since claimed to carry on their legacy. KTI stands out among them for its aggressive mix of modern nationalism, Christian traditionalism, and militarized rhetoric, which it blends with elaborate symbolism, historical references, and a self-styled mission to defend Christian civilization. However, behind the knightly aesthetic lies a complex web of political activism, alleged disinformation campaigns, and associations with far-right ideologies. Unlike traditional chivalric organizations, KTI operates primarily online, creating a mystique around its leadership and obscuring its activities through a series of proxy websites, news outlets, and social media operations. The official origins of Knights Templar International remain vague, with its website and materials offering a mixture of historical narrative and spiritual rhetoric rather than concrete details. The group claims to be a real continuation of the medieval Templar order, asserting that it survived in secret for centuries through underground networks of Christian knights and clergy. This claim is typical of modern self-styled Templar groups, most of which lack formal recognition by any established church or state authority. However, what distinguishes KTI is not its historical claims, but its fusion of this mythos with a political and religious agenda aimed at mobilizing support among conservative and nationalist circles, particularly in the UK, Europe, and parts of the United States. The group often invokes a narrative of civilizational war, arguing that Western Christian values are under existential threat from globalization, secularism, Marxism, and Islamic extremism. KTI's ideological platform is steeped in what it calls traditional Christian values, a phrase that, in their usage, encompasses opposition to abortion, LGBT rights, feminism, multiculturalism, and immigration. The group positions itself as a defender of Christianity and European identity, claiming that modern society has strayed from its spiritual and moral roots. Through its online platforms, KTI has promoted messages warning of the Islamification of Europe, often using graphic imagery, sensationalist headlines, and emotionally charged language to provoke outrage and fear. These messages are distributed through a network of affiliated media outlets, including websites like Knights Templar International, Knights Templar Order, and UK Unity, which produce content that ranges from conspiracy theories and anti-globalist diatribes to pro-Christian news and historical retrospectives. The blending of apocalyptic prophecy, pseudo-history, and right-wing politics creates a potent brew for audiences disillusioned with the modern liberal world order. One of the most concerning aspects of KTI's operations is its link to known far-right figures and organizations. Investigative reports, particularly by groups like Hope Not Hate and Bellingcat, have uncovered evidence connecting KTI to individuals such as Jim Dawson, a Scottish far-right activist, and Nick Griffin, the former leader of the British National Party, BNP. Dawson, in particular, has been identified as a key figure in KTI's media operations, having previously worked with other nationalist causes and anti-Islamic campaigns across Europe. His background in Christian fundamentalism and political extremism fits squarely with KTI's messaging. Under his influence, KTI has sought to expand its reach by participating in international right-wing causes, including supporting Serb nationalist paramilitary groups in the Balkans and promoting anti-migrant patrols in Eastern Europe. These connections highlight how KTI acts not just as an ideological movement, but as a vehicle for transnational right-wing activism. While KTI cloaks itself in the aesthetics of medieval chivalry and Christian knighthood, complete with red crosses, ceremonial robes, and Latin mottos, its activities bear little resemblance to any spiritual or religious order officially recognized by the Church. In fact, Many legitimate Templar-inspired organizations, such as the Ordo Supremus Militaris Templi Hierosoli Mitani, OSMTH, a UN-accredited NGO, have publicly distanced themselves from KTI, labeling it a politically motivated impostor. KTI's appropriation of sacred symbols and history is viewed by these traditional groups as a misuse of the Templar legacy. Nonetheless, the visual power of the Templar image, combining martial valor, Christian virtue, and secret society mystique, continues to attract online followers, particularly among men seeking a sense of purpose, belonging, and identity in a world they perceive as hostile to traditional values. KTI's recruitment strategies are heavily reliant on digital media. Their online platforms emphasize narratives of persecution, both historical and contemporary, drawing parallels between the fall of the original Templars and the supposed marginalization of Christians today. They depict a world in which Christians are oppressed by secular authorities, Muslim migrants, and liberal governments, thereby stoking a siege mentality that can radicalize followers. Videos and blog posts produced by KTI often depict European streets filled with migrants, highlight crimes committed by refugees, and promote nationalist solutions, such as cultural purity, border enforcement, and at times armed defense. This kind of content blurs the line between religious evangelism and political propaganda, effectively transforming the Knights Templar myth into a rallying banner for a cultural crusade. The militarized language and imagery used by KTI is particularly noteworthy. They often refer to themselves as warriors of the cross and promote the idea of a coming global conflict between Christianity and Islam. This rhetoric borrows heavily from the symbolism of the Crusades, framing contemporary politics as a spiritual war. In some cases, KTI has been accused of encouraging vigilante behavior, especially in Eastern Europe, where it has supported and documented the activities of border patrol groups who intercept migrants attempting to enter the EU. Although KTI claims it does not promote violence, its glorification of paramilitary action and demonization of religious minorities contribute to a culture of intolerance and fear. This is compounded by their use of heavily edited video footage, often lifted from unrelated events to create the illusion of widespread chaos and cultural decline. Beyond Europe, KTI has tried to align itself with broader Christian nationalist movements in the United States, Russia, and Serbia. The organization has expressed admiration for Russian President Vladimir Putin, whom it sees as a defender of Orthodox Christianity and traditional values against Western liberalism. Likewise, KTI has promoted the idea of a pan-Christian alliance uniting Catholics, Protestants, and Orthodox believers in a common struggle. This transnational outreach strategy demonstrates how KTI is attempting to evolve into a global movement, linking nationalist and religious conservative causes across borders. However, this global vision is undermined by its lack of transparency, dubious historical claims, and overt political agenda. Unlike traditional Christian institutions that emphasize compassion, humility, and ecumenical dialogue, KTI focuses on division, confrontation, and ideological purity. Despite its fringe nature, KTI has proven adept at navigating the internet's echo chambers, often finding an audience among conspiracy theorists, anti-globalists, and disillusioned Christians. Its content is tailored for virality, emotionally manipulative, visually striking, and simple in its message. In a world increasingly shaped by algorithmic exposure and ideological bubbles, such messaging can spread rapidly among vulnerable populations. The group has also capitalized on existing distrust of mainstream media, promoting its own outlets as sources of real truth. By presenting itself as both ancient and cutting-edge, spiritual and militant, KTI taps into a unique psychological space, one where ancient myths can be reborn as modern identities. Controversy continues to surround the financial structure and legal status of Knights Templar International. It is not officially registered as a religious or charitable organization in most countries, and its claims of being a sovereign order with embassies and ranks are unverifiable. Some critics suggest that KTI may be a front for money laundering, political manipulation, or international disinformation campaigns, particularly given its involvement in Eastern European politics and online influence operations. These suspicions are difficult to confirm given the group's secrecy and use of proxies. However, their activities align closely with tactics used by far-right networks to spread misinformation and radicalize communities under the guise of cultural or religious revivalism. In the broader context of modern secret societies, KTI occupies a peculiar place. It blends the myth of the Templars with 21st-century political activism, creating a hybrid that is neither purely religious nor entirely political. Unlike historical secret societies that operated discreetly, KTI is brazen and theatrical, using the internet as its main battlefield. Yet its appeal lies precisely in this mixture of old and new. In an age of uncertainty, where many feel alienated by globalism, automation, and cultural transformation, KTI offers a sense of rootedness, brotherhood, and mission, albeit through a distorted and divisive lens. It reimagines the knightly ideal not as a personal spiritual journey, but as a collective political crusade. In conclusion, the Knights Templar International is not a harmless historical society or chivalric revivalist group, but a digitally driven movement promoting a dangerous blend of nationalism, religious extremism, and far-right ideology. Its appropriation of sacred symbols and rewriting of history serve not to enlighten or preserve heritage, but to provoke, recruit, and polarize. As Western societies grapple with real challenges, immigration, identity, faith, and global conflict, groups like KTI exploit the cracks, offering simple answers to complex problems. They may wear the cross of the Templars, but their war is not for Jerusalem. It's for influence, power, and control in the volatile landscape of modern geopolitics. Understanding KTI means recognizing the new face of extremism, one that wears the mask of tradition, speaks in the language of faith, and wages its war through memes, myths, and manipulated media.